Hey guys, today we're going to do a review of the Pilot Vanishing Point Decimo Burgundy. It's a lot darker than it actually looks on some photos, and I actually prefer this. I only bought this because I saw some photos where it looked darker, and I assumed that that was more realistic to what it would actually look like. This pen is great. I was trying to decide between the regular sized Decimo, the regular sized Vanishing Point and the Decimo, because this is basically a thinner version of the Pilot Vanishing Point, part of their capless series. And of course, it's called capless because it has no cap. Instead, it has this retractable nib. You see that mechanism? You just click to let it out. You click to let it back in. It's pretty cool. And I'll get a better video of that a little bit later. But basically, I got this as an everyday carry. I do a lot of teaching and tutoring, and I have a lot of pens that I'd like to use during that. Some Lamies, Faber-Castell Loom, things of that sort, really all sorts of pens. But the problem I kept having was I would get distracted, meaning that I would be writing, and then I'd stop to explain something, and then I wouldn't cap my pen, and so I'd go back to write something else, and it would be dry, and I'd have to mess with it to get it to start, or shake it a little bit, and so I was like, you know what, I really do need an everyday carry. I need something that I can just do that and write. Even go in the grocery store, because fountain pens can dry out if you stop using them. Some are worse than others, but I wanted something that I wouldn't have to fiddle with, having my shopping list, which I actually use one of those top-bound wire small notebooks for that, but and then have to have a cap and worry about posting it or the cap falling off when I post it. But really just mostly the issue was having to cap and uncap constantly as I went through the list. Whereas this, I can just go check and then not worry about it. And it's not only, well, I don't know if I'd really call it semi-hooded or not. You guys can check the details on that, but it just stays wet, and that's what I need when I'm writing, And I did go with a fine. I didn't want to go with an extra fine because I just thought that would annoy me, but I wanted something that I could use on pretty much any paper, and so I went with a fine on this one. And the difficulty I had in getting this over the regular Vanishing Point is that basically you get a smaller pen for the same price with this one. And I was like, well, maybe I want a bigger pen. I tend to like heftier pens. I never actually tried a Vanishing Point before, so I didn't know. I was ordering online through Goulet, so I didn't really know what to do. But I ended up deciding with this, well, for two basic reasons. Less importantly, the color. I really liked this color. I did debate for a long time between this and the navy, because the navy that just came out, new color, looks awesome. But I didn't have any red pens, so I went with this, and I just thought this one popped more for some reason. It just was more special, and anyway, looked better. But the other reason is like, well, if this was my everyday carry, then I should probably have something smaller. Easier to just put in a pocket, take around, more versatile, I guess. Or not versatile, but just less cumbersome, to put it that way. So I decided to go with this, and I'm not disappointed. I might still get a Vanishing Point at some point in the regular size, but I love this, and I'll talk a little bit more about it during the writing sample. But it just as a heads up, it does write really well, and I think it works perfectly for what I needed it for. All right, great. Thanks.
Where did it go? Oh, it vanished. Hence, vanishing point. Anyway, this is the writing review for this Pilot Vanishing Point Decimo in Burgundy, which I think is a great color. It really is. Just love that. And this little mechanism is really cool. If I can get a better picture of that. Let's see. Focus. Let's focus on my hands instead. That's okay from this side, but not quite the front. Yeah, anyway. It's a pretty cool mechanism. Anyway, it also is a very great writer, and this is Claire Fontaine, top-bound wire notebook, by the way, 90 GSM. And we're writing with the Pilot Vanishing Point Decimo in Burgundy. And the ink today is one of my favorites. As you'll know if you've watched some of my other videos, I still can't decide if I prefer this ink or Diamine Oxblood better. This ink is Diamine Red Dragon. Yeah, anyway. Oh, by the way, this is a fine nib. It is gold. It's 18 karat gold at that. And it is quite wonderful. Being gold, you do get some line variation if you press a little bit. I wouldn't press too hard just because I don't want to spring the tines on this. I would be very upset if I did that. So I will forego doing that. It's a very good writer. I mean, for such a fine nib, being a Japanese fine, you know, they do tend to be quite fine. It is extremely smooth. I mean, part of it's the paper. I mean, paper matters. It really does. But it just writes so well. I mean, there is a little bit of feedback, but it's, you know, I think this pen finally helped me understand what people meant by the difference between feedback and toothy or scratchy. I felt scratchy before, that's very obvious. Toothy, I would say, is similar, like a Lamy Safari fine, or maybe even medium, but definitely Lamy Safari fine is a little bit toothy, meaning that it almost has like a pencil feel to it, but it's not scratchy. It's just, you know, it feels a little bit like a tooth. This is more feedback, meaning it's a little bit softer than toothy. You can feel it and hear it, but you can also write really lightly and almost feel it not at all. So you barely feel it. I mean, it's very smooth, especially for a fine nib. I mean, it's not a Lamy 2000 medium, which is even smoother. But for a fine pen, it's fantastic. It's just wonderful writer. I really enjoy this pen. I use it all the time now. And like I said, I use it mainly so that I can take quick notes, you know, You can also write very fast. Well, theoretically. My handwriting gets pretty bad when I write fast. But it keeps up just fine. There's no problem with the feed at all. The feed is fantastic. It seems just to be just as reliable as a roller ball or ballpoint as far as that goes. You might notice that you can get a little bit of difference in, at least with this particular ink, you can get a little bit of different darkness depending on how hard you press, of course, which is true of most inks. But because it is 18 karat gold and therefore a very soft nib, you really can get darker lines if you want, you know, without adding too much pressure. So I really like that. I can either write very lightly or a little bit more firmly. And it's a very minute difference in pressure, and you do get some decent variation. I mean, I was not pressing down hard at all, but this, I mean, barely was pressing at all. So just by a little bit of increase in pressure, you can get a decent amount of difference in shading and line thickness. So, you know, as you can see here, it is such a small difference in pressure that requires. But one thing that I really appreciate about this pen is actually the springiness. You know, I'd always heard that gold nibs were more springy, and I guess I know what people mean. I mean, I understood soft. My Lamy 2000 is the smoothest pen I own, and it is soft and smooth, buttery, you know, as everyone says, buttery. I know, using the same lingo. This, however, is when I first noticed sort of that springiness that people were talking about. I'm not saying it's the only one that does have that, I just noticed it more. Maybe it's because it's so fine and soft that, you know, the fine makes it a little bit stiffer, but then the you know, softness of the material makes it bounce a little bit more. I don't know. And of course, it depends how much pressure you're doing, but it's just even barely like this, just going down, you can kind of see it bounce. I'll try to get a good angle for you. See that nib just, I mean, I'm not putting any pressure on that at all, but you can kind of see it, you know, bouncing. A little bit of a nod, almost like, you know, just a little bit of a nose wiggle there. It's just, it feels fantastic. It's like, it writes so well. This is now my everyday carry pen. I use it for the grocery store and all that, like I said in the earlier part of the video. I just think this pen is fantastic. You will not regret getting this. I think this is also a great, for those who are looking to replace your daily carry of roller balls and stuff, this would be a great option. Or those who are used to other types of click pens. It is a little bit moderately priced, and for some people, when I say moderately priced and then tell them that this costs $140, you're going to look at me like I have lobsters crawling out of my ears. Thank you, A Christmas Story. But you can get much more expensive pens, and for an 18 karat gold nib with the mechanisms that this thing has, and the fit and finish and the pilot quality, which is amazing. I mean, even their Pilot Varsities, which are cheap, well, I should say very inexpensive pens, write amazingly well. So Pilot just is on top in so many ways, and this is no exception. And if you're really looking for something classy that you can use in a business setting without having to constantly recap to make sure that your nib doesn't dry out, this is a great option. Now, it is a little bit loud, so you don't want to be just like annoying people. You can do it very subtly, and if there's other noise going on, it's not going to be as noticeable. One issue that you can have, though, and I don't know if it'll happen, Murphy's Law, but you can splatter ink sometimes when I first got this and inked it up. I was having that every single time I went like that, it would splatter some ink on the page. For whatever reason, that has not happened. Oh, there we go. See it? Yep. It hasn't happened as much lately. But there you go. See? And I think I figured out that it's actually coming out of the breather hole. That seems to me to be where it's actually coming out of. Can't prove that, but it seems to change direction based on that. So, but anyway, but it's not a lot. And I mean, yeah, if you end up wiping it immediately, it's going to create a mess. But you can also just kind of do it subtly. So that's the biggest downside. I've also heard almost every reviewer talk about this next aspect, which of course is the fact that the clip is on the side that would normally be the section where you hold the pen, and people worrying about that and whatnot. And there's these little cutouts there for your fingers. I don't even use this section. This part's a little bit slippery right here because it is, the way it's not a matte finish. It is very smooth finish. So, and my fingers do get oily. I am Italian, at least partly, but I tend to hold my pens a little bit further back anyway. So I tend to hold back here. But even with that, where it doesn't have the cutouts, I find this to be perfectly fine. And I have a standard 3-point grip. And, I was worried about it. I'll admit, when I first saw any Pilot Vanishing Point ads or reviews, I was like, oh, that's horrible. Can't they just put the clip on the other side? Blah, blah, blah. Well, they can't, because then it would interfere with the mechanism. So in order to have a decent clip, they really needed to minimize anything back here to create space for their cartridges and converters, which it does take both, but they are proprietary. That can take the Con 50 or Con 40 Pilot converters, Con 15, Con 40, or their proprietary cartridges. You get like 0.83 milliliters of ink capacity with the converter, which is what I'm using, and like a little bit over 1 milliliter with their cartridges. But anyway, I was worried about that, but you know what? I'm not anymore. I've heard so many reviewers talk about this aspect of the pen, and I have yet to find any one of them that thought it was a problem. Yet they all start off with, a lot of people are concerned about, well, as far as I know, it's only a lot of people have never used it. I'm sure there are people out there that just don't like it and it annoys them. I'm not saying that there aren't that, but I wouldn't say it's a lot of people. I think most people that use this, contrary to what you hear about, oh, well, a lot of people have this concern. No, a lot of people worry about it before they try it. Now, maybe if you have a 4-point grip, it might, I don't even know how people write that way anyway, so I can't even imitate it. That it might be a problem. But for me, it's not. The pros definitely outweigh the cons. It's just such a beautiful pen. It writes extremely well. It's so convenient for so many things that I think this is a best buy pen. Like for actual everyday, I'm going to use this thing and it's always going to be there when I need it. That's what this is for. And for that, it is ideal. Highly recommend it if you've been considering one. I do not think you will regret it at all. Again, unless you have some sort of weird grip where you just can't handle it and you're like, I don't know what you're doing. But it's a great pen and highly worth it, and so sleek and smooth, and comes in some awesome colors. So anyway, I hope this review was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments below, and I hope you have a great day.